Right, guys, so it's Sam from Lifestyle Bullies, and we're back with another video again today. So today we have an interview with Rocky's Army, who are an advice and support group who help families who are going through their dogs being seized or anything to do with the Dangerous Dogs Act and breed-specific legislation. I just want to take this time to thank every single one of you for helping us reach our 2,000 subscriber mark. Big thank you to all of you for that. And if you're not subscribing, drop the subscribe button and pop the notification bells on to catch our next video, which is out every week. So, Mark, big thank you for joining in today. How are you doing, buddy?
I'm all right, thank you, and thank you for the invite.
No, that's absolutely fine. Thank you for taking the time out. So, yeah, we're just going to start by getting into it. What are Rocky's Army and what do you do? That's the main thing that I want to know, and probably what the people want to know.
Okay, so first of all, Rocky's Army, it's just basically 5 friends. We're all volunteers, so what we do is for free. We are called Rocky's Army Fighting BSL and DDA. BSL is breed-specific legislation, DDA is Dangerous Dogs Act. So the BSL part of it is for ban breeds, and the other part of the Dangerous Dogs Act applies to every single breed of dog.
Yeah, a lot of people get confused with that, don't they?
Yeah, a lot of people think that the Danish Dog Act only covers ban breeds. It doesn't. It doesn't matter whether you own a Chihuahua, a Great Dane, a Labrador, no matter what. Any dog can be deemed dangerously out of control. So we're there really so that when people's dogs are seized, either as a suspected ban breed or if there's been an allegation of an incident taking place and the police come out, they seize the dog, people don't know who to turn to. They type into Google or whatever, search engines, come across someone like us, and we will then help them for free to liaise with specialist dog law solicitors, which is the most important thing. A lot of people make the mistake of going down the high street, just
your normal criminal law defence.
Yeah. Now, that solicitor might be fantastic at most criminal law, but the Dangerous Dogs Act is very, very unusual in the way it is. It's the only law we've got in the country where the burden of proof is reversed, and that's where a lot of solicitors make a mistake. They don't know what to do, and it's so complex that when they walk into a courtroom, they get caught out all the time, and it can often lead to a destruction being given to a dog.
It's definitely
so. Yeah.
Is it one of those? It's definitely a specialist thing that you can. I think. Do you believe that solicitors really have to gain that from experience when it comes to the Dangerous Dogs Act?
Yes, they do. There's lots of solicitors even now who said I've done 4 or 5 cases. I haven't got a clue when certain things pop up. What we would say to people is that, look, when you're looking for a solicitor, if you're done for a crime, like a driving offence or a robbery or something like that, you try and pick your solicitor based on what their expertise is.
What they've proven to do in the past, yeah.
Yeah, exactly, yeah. So, and it's the same with dog law. A lot of solicitors think, oh, it's just normal criminal law and I can deal with this. But sadly, like I said, a lot of mistakes get made through that. What I would say, the easiest way to describe it is that you could have a heart surgeon or a brain surgeon. They're both surgeons, but you wouldn't ask the brain surgeon to do open heart surgery.
No, specialist.
Yeah, so you're looking for a specialist. We have links there are only several in the country, and we can direct people to that. How that works is a lot of it depends on, first of all, where the owner and the dog is based, which police force are involved. The police always have 2 options when they seize a dog. They can either do a criminal application or a civil application. If they do a civil application, unfortunately, there's no help with legal aid.
No, because that's civil.
It's very, very rare that a solicitor can claim legal aid on a civil application. Whereas on criminal, a lot of people can be entitled to legal aid. But then you've got the problem of, like, there's only a few specialist solicitors, and not all of them can travel hundreds of miles on legal aid, because legal aid is a pittance, to be honest.
Yeah.
So we can direct people as to which solicitor is more suited to them, which one's closer to them, and we can help them work that out. We took all the hard work out of it for them.
Yeah, because you can get legal aid and then have to make a contribution and stuff like that as well, can't you?
You can
when it comes down to it, depending on your employment status, your earnings, your outgoings, they can give you so much legal aid, and then they can contribute. You have to contribute so much towards it. So yeah, obviously there is help out there, and I think a lot of people do stumble at that, and a lot of
Yeah,
people give up because of the financial side of fighting for your dog and all the costs and stuff that go into it. So it's great that volunteers, people like you, are there to help those people. And as you know, well, tell them a bit about it, like how, because obviously we know you do a lot of fundraising. So what sort of fundraisers do you do? How do you do them, and how can people get involved?
right. So basically, it's mostly through our Facebook page that we do it. It's a lot more responsive that way for fundraisers. So we will do raffles where people can buy a number for £1 or £2. They get to win a prize. You know, when the raffle sold out, we do a draw. So it's all done through a random generator, so
Yeah.
it's not fixed. So you could basically win something that's worth 30, 40, maybe £50 for £1. We don't
And it's all
expect that.
helping dogs anyway. So
Yeah, so they get a chance to get something back out of it. They're helping the
yeah,
dog, but they're also getting a chance to get something out of it. So what that money does is that, like I just said, where people can't get legal aid, or if the police do a civil application, now if you're unemployed and you can't get legal aid, a lot of people give up. They think I can't
yeah,
afford to
and
fight
they
for my
just
dog.
sign it over.
Yeah. So what we then do is, as a group, we then reassess people's financial situation. We say, okay, what we can do is we can help you fund your solicitor by
Yeah.
fundraising and we raise the money for it. So that's what all the fundraising games, raffles, things like that. That's where that money goes. We do a one for each dog. We've normally got about 10 or anything between 10 and 15 dogs that we're supporting at once.
Yeah.
It's quite expensive paying specialist solicitors, but the outcome is worth it because you know you're going to get a better service.
No, no, yeah,
Um,
absolutely understand that.
yeah,
So, Mark, so let's talk a bit about you then. So, what was it that drove you to start Rocky's Army? What is it you? Where is it you come from, and what made you want to actually start doing this?
uh, basically, it first happened. I mean, it was not something I really knew a lot about. 10 years ago. My wife did. She used to follow different groups on Facebook and follow stories on Facebook. So she knew a bit about it, and she was always against it. She would rabbit on and yeah, tell me about stuff, and I was like, "What the baffling." Didn't understand it. But then a friend got in touch and just said his wife's cousin's dog had been seized by police for being a pit bull. And they had a GoFund up and they asked, would we help share it? So we did. And then my wife said, you really want to look at this? And she started explaining things about the Danish dog. And I was like, that is not what I thought the Danish Dogs Act was. I had, like most people, had this impression the Danish Dogs Act was protecting us from really vicious dogs. No idea that dogs could be seized just purely on looks and then be given a death sentence or a life of restrictions. And I thought there's a lot of
That's
injustice.
the problem.
Yeah, yeah,
So,
and it was kind of
is that where the name Rocky's Army comes from?
yeah. So basically, we were part of a. We joined another group, me and my wife, and we were part of another organisation, and we done that for a couple of years. But that organisation was like closing down, wasn't going right. So a few of us that were part of it decided to set up this one, Rocky's Army. And what it was is Rocky's, it's named after a dog called Rocky, which is not the initial dog that got me involved in it. It
Ah,
was just on the case we worked on together. It was Rocky the Pitbull. So it was just putting his name in it, honour of his
oh,
name. And
so it's
helped
Rocky's
him.
Army fighting against BSL&DDA. Yeah, see, it makes
Yeah,
sense now. I always wondered where the Rocky's Army come from. So
yeah.
one of the main things I think people would like to ask, and one of the main things I'd like to ask as well, is what advice would you give to people who believe their dog is a banned breed, either an XL bully type or a pitbull type, and it's not currently exempt? What is the advice you can give for them?
Right. Not to panic. The first thing is not to panic. I know the deadline is passed now. Even though the deadline is now passed and people think that's it, you can't register your dog. You can. There is still a way to do it. Unfortunately, the only way to do it is via the court. So only court can grant exemption now. There are two ways in which that can be done. You can either self-report yourself to the police, say, I think I've got a banned breed dog. They will come out, they will seize your dog, dog, what's called the dog legislation officer, will assess your dog to determine, firstly, is it a banned breed or not. Sometimes it can be good news. The DLO will turn around and say, your dog's not a banned breed. We're returning your dog. End of. No further action. You've got nothing to worry about. But if they say, actually, we believe your dog is a banned breed, whether it's an XL bully, a pitbull type, or the Japanese toes, or the others,
So on.
it then goes to court. The police put the application into court, and the courts do a two-stage process. Is the owner fit and proper? Now, fit and proper does not mean mentally or physically fit. It just means, are you a fit and proper person to be trusted to follow the conditions of the exemption for a banned breed dog? That can sometimes can extend to certain people with mental health, but not everyone with mental health will be affected. There are plenty of people out there, people with autism, people with schizophrenia, people with bipolar who have exempted dogs. So don't panic. That's what we say to people. The second stage of the criteria is, does the dog actually pose a risk to the public or not? Right. So the terminology by the government says the dog is a risk because it's originally bred for fighting. That's what they're saying. Therefore, it could be risky to the public. But the police have to assess, well, do we think this dog doesn't pose a risk if it's given conditions? Conditions of being muzzled and kept on a lead at all times in public. So that's where the safety aspect comes in. And providing them two can be met, your dog can then be granted exemption. Now, like I said, there's two ways to do it. They're both through court. Again, you don't have to go straight to the police. If you believe your dog is possibly banned, what you can do is you can get in touch with what's called an independent type expert. Pay them to come out to your house to do an assessment. They will do an assessment on your dog and help you decide if or not the dog is a banned breed. If it is, they will then tell you then a specialist solicitor, and that specialist solicitor can apply to the court for you. So that is another option.
Yeah. So is there many people that you've come across, and how many people have you come across, sorry, that have actually got that exemption through court? Is it a rare thing, or is it quite common for people to get their dogs exempt through court?
It's very, very common for the dogs to be granted exemption. Most dogs that are seized, or in the past, like especially with the pit bulls, which is the most common one, the majority of them will pass the assessment because they are friendly dogs. So more dogs get granted exemption than dogs that don't.
Yeah. So basically, in another way to put it, when people, if their dog has been seized, if they realise, if their dog really is like a really good friendly dog, been socialised well, etc. and stuff like that, they really have a lot less to worry about, because you basically, even if a dog is a banned breed, if it doesn't pose a threat to the public, then there's a big chance you are going to get the dog back with some restrictions around your dog.
With the restrictions,
Yeah, because obviously you see a lot about it, and I do anyway, about the cost to the government, the cost to the police force, the cost side of seizing dogs. And when you actually read through the Enforcer's Guide, it says how they should, really try not to seize dogs too much due to the costs it costs to the court and to the public and to everybody else. And that maybe that you should try, the officer at the time should try and explore other routes before actually seizing that dog. Is that true?
Yeah, so basically it's become commonly known as basically doggy bail. The real terminology is interim exemption scheme. And what that means is that if your dog is not a risk to the public and it already meets part of the criteria of what a banned breed has to be. So if you had third party insurance, if your dog was already neutered or spayed, right, so you can't carry on breeding it, you would only then have to agree to having the dog muzzled and kept on a lead to keep the dog at home until you get to court. Sadly, a lot of police forces don't use that. And it's there, which would help because that would cut down on kennel and costs. Because that is another thing when your dog's seized. When you go to court, the police always ask for kennel costs for the time that your dog is away, and that's quite expensive.
Yeah.
If IES was used a lot more, there wouldn't be kennel costs because the dog would only then be seized for anything from a week to about 3 weeks. for them to do the assessment, them to deem the dog not to be a risk, and say, okay, we trust you as a fit and proper. The dog can't be bred from. So, providing you agree to have your dog on a muzzle and lead at all times, we will let the dog come home to you. That would solve
All
you know,
of the cost
issues.
side.
Yeah, it would solve costs to the owner. It would solve the pressure on the
Bro.
and the kennels, and more importantly, it would take the stress away from the dogs.
Yeah.
For the
So
dogs being ripped torn away from their families, surely the dog would be better off at home with its family,
in
with
their own
people,
environment.
rather than around strangers. Because then you've got the problem is that all dogs are different. So some dogs will cope really well in kennels, and some dogs won't. So then
That
you see these
yeah,
videos
that
where dogs
brings
are coming home underweight, and people say, "Oh, they've neglected my dog, or the welfare is terrible." That's not always the case. That the dog's not being looked after. Sometimes it comes down to the individual dog just doesn't want to eat too much. It doesn't want to mix with strangers. It just becomes isolated, and it sits back and it doesn't want to do anything.
yeah, so you literally just answered my next question that I was about to talk about there, and that's
Right.
obviously you see a lot of stuff about police dogs in kennels on social media and stuff where people post videos and pictures of these dogs looking absolutely terrible,
Yeah.
completely malnourished, not been looked after, sores all over them, and then some really unlucky owners out there have lost their dog when it's been in the police kennel. So I just want
Yeah.
to know from you, because obviously I understand people are going to show that side of it all over social media, no matter how
Yeah.
much of it there is. But the good side of it, they're never really going to show. They're not,
No.
how it is. People aren't, people are more likely to leave a bad review than what they are a good review. Do you see what I mean by that? So, do you see more dogs come out of kennels looked after or more neglected? Like, what is it you see more of?
I would say more dogs come home in good condition than dogs
Yeah,
that come home and neglected. However, like you pointed out, bad reviews will always get more
highlight.
highlighted than good reviews. So I was just uh, say that for one instance, we know like two cases we had, same police force, two bull breed dogs, so same kind of dogs. One was in kennels for 5 months, one was in kennels for 6 months. The one that was in for 5 months came back, it was underweight, it lost weight, it had sores on it. The one that was there for 6 months, when that dog come home, the owner actually said to us, "My dog is in better condition now than what it was when it was seized."
Yeah,
So these two dogs were held by the same police force, same kennels. One was there for a month longer. The one that was there for a month longer was in much better shape. So again, it can come down to the individual dog.
yeah,
So
100%.
some dogs will trust anyone, as you know, and some dogs will only take certain people, and some dogs struggle in certain situations where others don't. So whilst we do see dogs suffering or coming back underweight and with sore, and that shouldn't be, we do see dogs coming home in absolutely fantastic condition as well.
Yeah,
The problem is that the contractor kennels, that's something else people don't realise, is that everyone thinks they're kept at police kennels. So you read stories about the police go past the cages and rub the truncheon across the bars. The police aren't there. These are
they're
contractor
kept
kennels.
in a
Yeah,
private kennel, aren't they?
private kennels, yeah. So it comes down again to the staff that work there and does the dog get on with them and that. Now the problem we've got is that these kennels are not inspected by an independent party. We have had
Right.
cases of a couple of years ago, and it does happen every year. You get one or two dogs do actually die in kennels. They will suffer from bloat or something else. They'll have eaten something they shouldn't. Sometimes they're taken to the vet too late. So we think, RSPCA came up with a welfare guide for dogs in kennels. They tried to get the government to agree to enforce that on all contractor kennels. No one wants to know. What people don't realise is that police working dogs and police horses, where they're kept, their kennels are inspected by an independent team every year
So
to
they've
make
got a
sure that
certain
their welfare
standard to.
needs, yeah, to make sure their welfare needs are satisfactory and so on. So why haven't we got an independent team of veterinary people, behaviourists, or charities who are inspecting these kennels? Yes, I understand the kennels have to be kept a secret location, but surely if you've got an independent team, they're not going to be right. She's
Spilling
coming
the
on
beans
Facebook
or
and
no.
saying, "Oh, such and such a kennels has done this and that."
Yeah.
But we just want to make sure that, first of all, the staff are trained to notice certain things first, quicker, rather than dogs being rushed to a vet too late.
Yeah, having a certain level of knowledge, and you just think straight away, for me anyway, that just raises red flags as to why wouldn't they be having somebody independent actually,
Yeah,
checking up on things. It gives you, it makes you, that itself does make you think, oh, what are they trying to hide? What do they not care about? So you're right. I think that should probably be some kind of, already regulated, just like, a restaurant every year has to have the environmental health officer come
yeah,
round and check that everything's safe to carry on, continuing
yeah,
business. And they're pretty much just left to their own resources, can do what they want, which means, no one's checking up on them, and no one's there to say, hang on, this is
yeah,
wrong, and this is what's going to happen to you now. So I think, that's something I didn't know, and I'm glad you've highlighted that, because it's definitely
yeah.
something people need to know, and definitely something people can push for with petitions and stuff. I know it don't do much, but every little help, stuff like that.
Yeah, I mean,
That's
we
it.
we have had a petition up for that in the past. It was like, it didn't, unfortunately, it didn't get enough. So it only got 10,000 signatures. It didn't get
Yeah,
enough to be debated. But it was kind of like no one cared anyway, because the government just, when they look at it at 10,000, it was kind of like, well, once your dog sees, the police are responsible for the dog's welfare.
yeah, of course.
So we come back at them and say, well, hang on a minute, but the you're saying the police are responsible for the animal's welfare, but then the police are saying, well, it's not our fault because we're not running the kennels, they're contracted kennels. So it's the kennel's fault. So all the time, someone's passing the buck, someone's passing the
Passing the
blame.
blame. Yeah, it's not me.
Yeah, and
It's
that's what I said. This is what I said. We need something like an independent team to assess kennels for seized dogs. That seized dogs are getting their needs met.
Yeah, 100%, Matt. So I suppose before we wrap up, then, this is probably the most important thing to ask. If people are seeking your help, your guidance, your advice, how do they
Yeah.
get hold of you, and how sort of long is it that you take to get back to them, etc., and just all the sorts of details on how people can get hold of Rocky's Army and use their services?
Yeah. So there are multiple ways of getting hold of us. We have we're on like TikTok, X, Instagram, Facebook. So we're there on the most platforms, so people can either message us via that way. We also have a website, but the website's got a slightly different name. It's called Help Police Have Seized My Dog.
Yep,
So we
I'll
have
tag
like
it below.
people can either uh, telephone us, send us a message. They can email us. There's a couple of ways that they can email us. On average, we try to do. We did have a response time of like an hour to 2 hours. At the moment, we're roughly either the same day or the day after, because
You're really
since
busy.
since the 1st of February, once the deadline closed, just to give you an example, we were getting 34 messages a day
Wow,
from people,
people
as opposed,
seeking advice.
yeah, as opposed to like we would normally get 3 or 4 a day.
Yeah, and do
It's-
you cover the
so,
whole of the country?
yeah, so we basically help people in England and Wales. Um, Scotland is slightly different. It still has the Danish Dogs Act and it still has the ban, but they do things slightly different up there. So, but although we don't cover that area, if someone from Scotland gets in touch with us, we do know a solicitor that specialises in that, so we can direct them to a solicitor at least.
Yeah, no, I completely understand. So yeah, 100%. A big shout out to Rocky's Army, Mark from Rocky's Army today, taking the time to come out to this interview. Hopefully, anyone out there who had any of the questions to do with anything to do with their dog being seized, etc., this has answered some of them. But if not, always don't be afraid to contact Mark over there and
Yeah,
ask for his advice, ask for anything. I'm going to pin all of his socials down in the comments below. I'm going to pin a link to their website, etc., just so if anyone is out there, and it is going to be one of them scary times, it's going to be a hard time, and you're going to be really worried. I promise you, these are the type of people that will just help that situation a lot more than what it would if you deal with it by yourself. And there's
yeah,
just so much that people aren't aware of, that you have as rights when it comes to this. That people like Rocky's Army, they there and they highlight it for you, and they make sure you understand what you're entitled to and what the police can and can't do with your dog. So yeah, Mark, big shout out and thank you so much for joining in today. Make sure you all go follow him, follow all their socials accounts. Obviously, he says on TikTok and everything like that as well. I'll pin it all down below. And yeah, big shout out for tuning in today, Mark. And right, guys, that is the end of this video, the end of this interview for today. Like I said, drop us a comment down below if you've got any questions or anything you want to know about it whatsoever, and let us know what you thought of the interview down below. There will be new uploads weekly again. And remember, if you're not subscribing, please drop us a subscribe. So big shout out to you all, and we'll catch you on the next one.